Welcome back. You're watching Channel 1 Liverpool with me, Rifat Malik. Channel 1 Tubruk. Channel 1 Albert Dock. Time to take a look at the headlines now.
It's 10 to 11, I'm Rifat Malik. 9 o'clock, I'm Rifat Malik.
Christopher Older was found dead. All political campaigning has stopped. Stand head-to-head with those who feel it's morally indefensible. This is it, folks. My brief 2 weeks of movie show stardom has come to an end. The film director Steven Spielberg to be given an honorary knighthood.
Hello and welcome to the Muslim Viewpoint, a new video podcast series powered by American Muslim Today. Hello and welcome to the Muslim Viewpoint, a new podcast series powered by American Muslim Today, a non-profit national media platform. I'm your host, Rifat Malik, and today we are joined by Deborah Armintor, a representative for the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of Jewish Voices for Peace. She will be talking about recent protests in Dallas against real estate agencies selling occupied and illegally settled Palestinian land, as well as the issue of Gaza and the continued killing in that region. Dr. Armintor is an associate professor at the University of North Texas. She was formerly a counselor on Denton City Council and is now a leader on several local social justice issues. Deb, can you tell us about Jewish Voices for Peace and the work that your organization is doing in the fight for justice for Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank?
Yes. So Jewish Voice for Peace is the largest anti-Zionist Jewish organization in the world. And our goal is the total liberation of Palestine, to uplift the voices of and support our Palestinian siblings in their call for total liberation and against the occupation.
And you're a national organization, and is there any idea of how many members you have?
Our DFW, Jewish Voice for Peace pod. We've got about 30 people now and growing, 30 people who are, involved, registered members. National Jewish Voice for Peace pods and chapters that have been sprouting up nationwide since October 7th.
Okay, so one of the central issues in that region, in the Middle East, is occupied land and illegal settlements in the Israel, Palestine, West Bank, Gaza. And you recently helped to organize a protest against a company which is selling land in Israel called Capital Real Estate. And this protest was in Dallas-Fort Worth. So can you tell us a little bit about that protest? And how is a US-based company allowed to sell land in what is, recognized by many people to be occupied land?
So our DFW Jewish Voice for Peace pod got a tip from the Jewish Voice for Peace in Los Angeles, telling us that Capital Real Estate, which is the name of this company, it's spelled Capitil, Capitil, and they go on tour just nationwide, usually in synagogues, holding these stolen land sales, and are very secretive about it. But the LA Jewish Voice for Peace let us know that they were coming to Dallas, and we're able to confirm that. And so we swiftly mobilized to form a protest in coordination with our siblings in Palestinian Youth Movement, PYM, which we partner with. These land sales, and Capital is just one of the number of companies, I actually don't know how many there are, that do these stolen land sales. They use Jewish synagogues as a kind of a cover, a kind of a shield to hold these land sales. So what we did was we held our protest just a block away so that it did not appear as if we were protesting the synagogue, because we're not protesting a synagogue that people are coming and going to for all sorts of reasons, including this event. And we lined the block with signs and chants that were directly targeting Capital real estate and these stolen land sales.
I was just going to ask, Deb, were you able to get a response from the synagogue who was hosting the event, or any rabbi or anyone about the event and, the legitimacy of having such an event?
We weren't asking for a response from them. Our goal was to raise awareness and to show how shameful, how grossly unethical, and also how illegal these land sales are, to make it so that nobody would want to be associated with these land sales. That is our goal.
And I should point out that Palestinians specifically are barred from buying any of this land, which it's actually their land.
Exactly, yeah. Palestinians, they're barred from even, returning to their homes.
And also, as well as, domestic American law, I think also many would argue that it's a violation of international law, because there have been a number of UN resolutions on illegal settlements and occupied land and preserving the land for a possible future, two-state solution, or at least allowing Palestinians back on the land.
Undoubtedly, it is a blatant, just the most egregious imaginable violation of international UN human rights law. When you look at the history and see the complicity of not only the US and Britain, but also the United Nations in the ongoing Nakba, starting in the late 40s. The UN was very complicit in all this.
That's partly because America has continuously or consistently vetoed those resolutions, especially in terms of Israel. So I wanted to ask you on a wider point, Deb. Millions of Americans, as you know, have been outraged that in the midst of Israel's 10-month-long siege on Gaza, last month, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was invited to address Congress. We know that I think approximately 100 representatives from the House boycotted that event. We know that Representative Rashida Tlaib did attend, but she made clear her position and held up, I think, a placard calling Netanyahu a war criminal and accused him of genocide. There were protesters, hundreds of protesters outside, and I believe that Jewish Voices for Peace were also part of that protest. What is your message to Congress and to Netanyahu at this point?
Jewish Voice for Peace believes that as a war criminal, he should be not invited to this country, and he should have been arrested upon setting foot on U.S. soil. The fact that he was invited, not only invited, ovation, had the red carpet rolled out for him, and instead of Netanyahu being arrested, you had peaceful protesters who were the ones being arrested, who were protesting a genocide. I should say, my message is, where are your values? Where do you stand on international human rights law? Where do you stand on genocide? And we believe in holding all elected leaders accountable, whether they're Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. This is a basic human rights issue. And we are, and as Jews, when we see our religion, our heritage, get used in this really cynical way to justify a genocide that is against every single Jewish value that we were taught.
You mentioned the holding political leaders to account. For many Americans, especially Muslim Americans, their vote for president in November will depend on whether or not that candidate supports continuing military aid to Israel or holds Israel to account in some way. Now that Biden, who I'm sure you know had been nicknamed Genocide Joe, has been dropped out of the race, will his likely successor, Vice President Harris, be a better option for those opposed to Israel's current mass killing in Gaza? And I'm sure you're aware that she boycotted she didn't attend the address that Netanyahu gave to the House, and she did meet with him privately. And the implication was that she was going to hold him at least accountable for what was going on in Gaza and to push for a peace process. So is she, in your view, a better option? Should we be encouraging those who are opposed to what's going on in Gaza? Should we be encouraged to support someone like Vice President Harris?
That's a very good question, and I want to be careful with my words how I answer that. Not to be diplomatic, but to be truthful, to make sure that my meaning is clear. I was very pleased to see that Harris was not there, did not attend. She is, I think most people would agree, much better than Trump on this issue, who thinks that the genocide isn't happening fast enough. However, I'll just say this, I plan on, and I think we all should plan on, holding all of our elected leaders accountable and not settling for anything less than total arms embargo, an end to U.S. support for Israel. But we really need to expect so much more of our elected leaders and hold them accountable. And that's our job.
Absolutely. So Deb, as a university professor, I wanted to ask for your thoughts on the nationwide protests by students on the issue of Palestine and in support of Palestinians and against what Israel is doing in Gaza. Have you witnessed anything like this? And what are your thoughts on the courage of these students?
It has been extraordinary. I have not witnessed anything like this in my lifetime. I am so proud of U.S. students worldwide who have put their voices and their bodies on the line for Palestine, who can see so clearly what so many of our elected leaders and people in positions of power can't, that this is a genocide and that it is wrong. So I am so proud of our students and so ashamed at the response of universities. I can't think of a single university that has really approached this the right way. Instead, we're seeing universities criminalize students, police brutalize students with the cooperation of universities.
These protests have been peaceful, and this has huge implications for free speech, especially on campuses where traditionally there is a respect for that principle. Somehow it seems to have been suspended because of on the issue of Palestine and what's going on in Gaza. Do you hold the Governor Abbott, responsible for the way that here in Texas, I'm talking about the way that our universities and colleges have responded to these peaceful protests?
Absolutely. I hold Governor Abbott and the Texas legislature. However, and I'm not saying this to get him off the hook, but to just show how widespread it is. We have, in much more, supposedly progressive states with progressive leaders, these same crackdowns on the students who are peacefully protesting for Palestine and against a genocide. And so it is, our governor in Texas is absolutely responsible, but it is even bigger than that. This is a nationwide complicity in Israel's crimes. And this is why, we in Dallas-Fort Worth Jewish Voice for Peace, why it's so important for us to stand up as Texas Jews and say, not in our name.
Thank you so much, Deb. I really appreciate you coming and talking to us. And also, I know our readers and listeners will appreciate the work that you're doing, Jewish Voices for Peace. So thank you so much. And I'll be sure to share some of your links. And so if anyone can support you in any way that they can, we'll make sure they do that. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your work with American Muslim Today and for getting the word out.